All right,
They
well,
do
I
that on
think
the
we're
chemical
live
works.
now. So, hey, everybody, welcome to Dark Enforcers Podcast number 3. We're doing a bit of a different format here today. We're doing it on Google Hangout. So, hopefully, this will look a little more, I don't know, maybe not professional, but a little cleaner. With me here, I got, go ahead, Matt.
Hi, this is Matt. On the forums, I'm Spirit_Sage, and I'm part of the Dark Enforcers news team, which hopefully will have official news posted in the next couple of days and going forward from there.
All right, and down the line we have.
Hi guys, I'm Chris, or aka Zero. I'm the web admin on the website and DE's admin officer. Yeah, you can just hit me up on the website. Pretty much the only way you can contact me.
Right on. And yeah, so I guess we'll just jump right into Dark Enforcers news. We might going to make this a shorter podcast today, but we'll see how it goes. We'll just kind of play it by ear. So for Dark Enforcer stuff, I don't think there's anything really too groundbreaking to report right now. Biggest thing is probably that we are starting up a news team finally, something we've been talking about for a while. And so kind of take it off of maybe the division leaders a bit and have more of dedicated people and specializing in gathering the news you care about and putting that all up on the site. Matt and Chris here, they know more on it, so maybe I'll let them have the floor. And I don't know if maybe you guys want to give us a sneak peek in what you got planned or what you got going on.
Sure, I guess I'll go first. Yeah, so we're just kind of getting it off the ground as far as like a lot of the back end stuff, as far as which Chris would know more about, as far as setting that kind of stuff up. I also have another member of the DE forums. I think it's pronounced Crixic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know his actual like real name, but he's really interested in becoming a lead as well. So we're hoping to be able to have at least two of us be able to post stuff, and then if anyone else is interested at some point in just finding news and getting it out there, because obviously we're not going to be able to find everything interesting all the time, that if they
Right.
wanted to post in the news section on the forums where it says, that would be a big help to us to be able to get that kind of stuff on the front page. As far as different ideas that we have right now, we'd like to do, ideally at in the future, we'd like to at least have daily news, so that there's something new on the page every day that is interesting, not just filler. We're looking at things like editorials, possibly YouTube videos, like stuff like this podcast, for example. We could put up as a news article so that people can find it, like have an easier way of finding it. Also, issues that are up for debate, things like that. Like, for example, the thing that I'm going to talk about later in the broadcast is stuff that we want to have and share. And as much as we can, we want to have the focus coming back to the webpage. So we don't want to just have a news article saying, "Oh yeah, see this like webpage way over here," and then you never come back to our page. Like, we want it to have some impact on us, so that people will want to come back, want to come into the forums and discuss about it. Which so far in the two other articles that I posted in the forums, not on the webpage, people have had a fair amount of discussion. So we're going to keep moving forward, and certainly we're open to any kind of ideas that other people have.
Right on. Anything you want to add to that, Chris?
Well, as far as the back end, we just there's a when you go to the main website when you're registered on the site. I think you've seen it. Where it says blog. That's what
Right.
we're using. That's what we're using for Matt here and Crix, so they can post on the official news. As for the forums, I've created a user group for anybody who decides to join either the news team or the design team. That way, it could be a little more of an incentive for people. Just instead of having the bland gray color, they can have a new color and be part of the staff, even if they're not, say, in a game like Crix. He doesn't have an Xbox,
Right.
so he wants to do something with the community. Well, there you go. You're part of the news team. You're still contributing to the community.
Yeah, right on. And I know too, this is a bit of a side note, but I know from listening to other podcasts at IGN and whatnot, a lot of them they get their start in doing news articles for blogs or their own personal sites or whatnot too. So if you have any interest in maybe doing that down the line, getting some stuff done up and published on our site even or that you can use as a reference later, or at least to practice your skills, could be good for down the road too. So it can be a good launch pad for that if that's something any of you are thinking of doing in the future.
Exactly. Yeah, I know that's what Crix wants to do for sure. So it's definitely something because I mean, yeah, everyone has to start somewhere, and why not here? It's already a growing community. We're getting more and more people signing up and visiting the website every day. So it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, no, that sounds good. Still interested to see what you guys put out, how you what format you managed to do it in. Or so are you guys thinking of like maybe just doing like the biggest story per day, or were you kind of thinking of doing like maybe like breakdown like with little bits on the latest news, or what format were you thinking you might kind of do this in?
Well, we haven't completely nailed it down, and we might change it up depending on the day. Because if it's a slow news day, obviously, just post whatever. But if it's a bigger news day, then I think what I'd like to do ideally is either have one post that can kind of cover multiple things. So, like, I'm thinking a blog roll format. So if you've ever been on like WordPress or Blogspot or things of that nature, where they'll have a main like blog section that's like yay big, and it'll say, here's a summary of kind of the things, and then you click read more, and then it'll give you like more links and that kind of
Right.
stuff. Because obviously we don't want a thing that's like this large, like taking up half the front page. We want to have it
Yeah.
shrunk down. But at the same time, we also don't want to have like 15 posts, because then if you're like, oh, what was yesterday's news, you can't even find it because it's already off the page.
That's true.
So we'll kind of split it up. I mean, I'd like to have, if it's an editorial or something, we might give it its own post. But if it's just like, here's 5 or 6 different things that happened today that are interesting, we'll kind of keep it in one post, and that way people can easily find it.
That's cool. I think that's a good way of doing it. Yeah, especially
And
with things like they just announced like what 4 different Persona games, so it's like
Yeah.
yeah.
quick side note for the news: anytime we're gonna post a major story, just contact anyone on the news team so we can get a graphic up there for it. Not just some random thing we find on the internet, something that we create specifically for that article.
Oh, right on.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's I was gonna ask about that, so that's really
Yeah.
good then. So we'll run it by you guys then.
Going along with that, since we're starting the news team, we've had the design team for a while, but it's just been myself and Vector, the guy that created the logo. Since everybody's gonna watch this video, we need more members for designs as well as for the news team. So
Right.
if anybody knows anybody who's interested in either of them, have them contact us on the website.
Yeah, even if you know somebody who maybe they're not into or don't have the time to game or whatnot, of course they're free to join any of our divisions on that end. But even if just kind of like the news thing that I said, if they just want a platform to kind of get work out there in the open and have that for portfolio or whatever, right? Like it's just as good for that too. So yeah, I see stuff going up almost on a daily basis on new things that the design team's putting out, and
really
yeah,
cool
it's like
stuff.
it's getting better and better, right? Like I remember seeing the stuff that we had for YouTube early on, even just a few months ago for Wing. He wanted some stuff for his YouTube channel, and if you compare that to what just got posted like a couple days ago, the new intro for our productions stuff. It's all like in HD and like badass effects and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been really cool to see it all come along.
Yeah, no, we're more than happy to teach anybody who's just starting out. So people don't need to be intimidated by it.
Right on. Cool. And I guess just as a quick side, so the teaching stuff, are you like planning on writing like maybe how-tos, or are you more like one-on-one stuff, or how are you thinking of doing that?
How-tos, just like the tutorials we already have there. We're also going to be posting videos of step-by-step process, and if there is a request for it, we will do one-on-one sessions on Google Hangout.
Okay. Cool. Right on.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's most of it for that stuff. Unless you guys have anything you think to add, anything that's Dark and Force kind of been bringing up or mentioning that you'd like to put out there. I think that's most of that stuff anyway.
Yeah, I think that all covers it.
Okay, cool. So I guess we'll hop into more of the gaming stuff then. For divisions and whatnot, PS4 division for DC Universe Online seems like it's finally going smooth. I had no trouble at start, but I guess a lot of people are having trouble getting into that, so that's finally going. Um, so and that's cross-platform too. So anybody who wants to go on PS3 or PS4, you can use your same account. You can play with all the same people and all that. So it's finally up and running like it should. The other thing would probably be that new Neverwinter expansion's coming out. I think it's December 5th. Of course, they have all that on their website. So a lot of people will probably be hopping on with that new expansion. Archer class finally, so that's something that I've been looking forward to.
And so
And
we're both going to be playing archers again, aren't we?
yeah, there will probably be a lot of people playing that, but I'll be one of them. So, but yeah, so we'll probably be a lot of people hopping in when that launches. Hopefully, so kind of revitalize that a bit. So that's exciting. And yeah, still same stuff on PS4. Still doing Killzone. We're getting lots of people for that. We're kind of broken that up into. Looks like how we're going to run Killzone is kind of like matching the party system on the PS4. You can have 8 people in a party. So we'll probably have an officer per 7 people, or maybe 8, just in case. Like there will probably always be somebody who doesn't show up. So that way, there will always be room for all of our members to get in and play. You know, nobody will be left out, and also it kind of keeps the job simple for everybody. I think it's one person managing 7 people instead of, even if you have a bunch of officers, it's still easier than a few guys managing like 50 or whatever. However, like I know Neverwinter for like a group of, I don't know how many can they get into clans. I know we got like 3 clans done up on there.
Oh.
But
That's
shit,
a
like
good figure. I mean, some of them got up to like
300 members in one of those clans
Yeah,
or something.
crazy like that. Yeah.
So it's like, and they usually have like 2 officers and a leader, and it's like, man, that's a lot of people for 2 people to manage. So Killzone will hopefully have a little more, a little less crazy. And
we're changing up the Neverwinter
yeah,
system a little bit. Yeah, I mean, the way we were doing it before, just mass recruiting and all that, it's not really working out all that well, considering you have a bunch of inactive members after a certain point.
Yeah, that's true.
Now it's just going to be a buddy system where you play with somebody for a while, and then you introduce them into the guild.
Okay.
It's much easier, and you'll get people who actually want to be a part of it.
Yeah, Killzone, we're kind of doing something different there too. It's not so much the like the trial period thing like that, though that's good too. It's just I'm hoping that with the smaller groups, maybe people will be more personally engaged, and that will kind of keep them strung along. We'll see how that pans out though. We might end up going to a system like that though, depending on what the quality of players are like. Not so much in skill, but just more in personality, Like if you have people who are just kind of ignoring your invites and stuff, they're not really in the clan. So.
Yeah, and it was interesting, kind of connected to that is I think it was posted on the forums. I think it was posted on the forums anywhere where someone was asking the question, what is the incentive to not only join the clan or join the guild or whatever it is per game, but also what's the incentive to actually go on the forums and post on the forums? And I don't know what the official response is to it, but I know what my response is that it creates a lot more community, and it goes to exactly the point you just made about the fact that if you have people that will join, like click the join button, and then they never accept invites, and they just basically go around and do whatever the heck they want, it's like, the whole idea of this is to create a sense of community so that you have people, to hang out with on a regular basis, to help you through things, but also to, expand and grow and do different things together. It's not just it's not just your personal thing. Like if you happen to have an hour of time, just be like, okay, I'm going to do stuff, but then when someone else needs time or needs help or something, you're just like, you bugger off or something,
Yeah.
Posting on the forums that you can also know, when people are on, what are people doing, get to know them more other than they're just like an avatar in a game somewhere. You get to know them a little bit more and that kind of stuff. So there are a lot of good things to joining the community on the forums.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like it all starts out kind of anonymous, and it can be kind of maybe intimidating, but I don't know if that's the best word at first. But once you get on there playing with people, especially with systems is really easy to get into voice chat. PC, you have to go through a little more with Mumble and that, but I would say it's worth it because once you start getting that communication with people, like I know some guys on Infinite Crisis, and really the only reason why they still play is because like myself and Yo, who was on earlier podcast, we're usually on there, and with like one guy one shot, his game's usually running at 6 frames per second. Like it's borderline unplayable, and he just puts up with it because he just enjoys the people, right? So you get what you put into it. And if I wanted to promote it on maybe a more, I don't know, maybe not more enticing, but on another way, is for the people that we have active, those are numbers that we can promote to get more people in, and also numbers that we can promote to companies to get beta keys and things like that. So if you're active, we can then feed that into getting stuff that we can give out as incentives. So it's almost self-fulfilling at that point, right? Yeah. So once people start, we can kind of get the incentives that we need to feed back into that to get more people to be active, and it will, more likely just snowball from there. And it's just we need that kickstart of people. We need, like, even if the forum boards might be quiet one day, it's like just get in there, post a topic, what's on your mind. Like, there's things for TVs, there's things for comics, there's things for almost everything. Sports is a new one. And
if we don't have anything there, just tell us, we'll add it.
Yeah, like the community, the guys who run it, they're always watching the shout box usually. They're definitely always watching for new posts, so it'll get seen for sure. And yeah, like I say, if it's quiet, just throw something in there, and it's surprising sometimes what topics blow up, or sometimes they blow up and the discussion may not even be what the original topic of the forum was, which has happened a couple times. But that's usually interesting. I like seeing that progression, going back through the post and like, how did it get on this?
Yeah. At least people are talking too, and that's the thing. Like that's what.
Yeah, that's
it's
the
all
important
about.
part. It's like the Xbox One launch thing. We were discussing about some of the issues it had and all of that, and everybody's kind of waiting around for like word from Microsoft. So the before we things got conspiracy theory level. So people were talking about. So I don't even know how it started, but it was like talking about like fanboy. What is a fanboy, and how much of a real thing is it, right?
Yeah, that's because I called Deathwing a fanboy. That's and it went from there.
Yeah. So. But yeah, and then Wing and a couple guys are like, "Oh man, this is so off topic." It's like, well, it's people are having fun.
It happens, like, and that's the thing. At least I'd rather see off-topic discussion that is still like relevant to some degree, as opposed to like no discussion at all, or like really off-topic where it starts getting into like offensive material and stuff. But I don't think
that's it.
That should be an issue at all.
As long as it's not a flame war, like I don't think anybody really has a problem. Whether that gets chopped up into another discussion or moved around is, not a big deal. But it's been interesting, and like I say, for you guys who are just kind of wondering what the incentives are, that's kind of it. Like the community is what you put into it, right? Like we're in the same boat as all of you. We're maybe even doing a bit more, right? And so we get inspired too. If we see you guys on there using this stuff, that inspires us to want to go out and it's like, man, they're really liking Killzone or whatever. It's like, man, I want to get more people now because people seem to be really having a good time, or I want to hit them up maybe and get some posters or something and give them out to the members that I see on every night or whatever, right? So.
And snowballs.
Yep, that's pretty much it. But so I think that mostly covers what's going on there, from what I know at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty much it for me. Do we want to move on to unofficial, just general gaming stuff?
Yeah, just general gaming stuff, sure.
Okay. So the only thing I had today, since this is a shorter podcast and we don't have a nice little screen display today, so we'll put it in the description when we
Yeah, I'll put up
actually
annotations, or at least in the description. Though I was looking at annotations the other day and it looked easy, so I'll try
Yeah,
and put
it
it
should
there.
be. Yeah, it should be pretty easy. But anyway, I can just explain it. So basically, what's interesting that's been going on is I saw a post this morning talking about how, and it's from the Escapist magazine. So I mean, if you want to go to the YouTube page, just type in the Escapist in the search bar, and it should give you a link to their YouTube page. And it's probably one of their newest videos. And basically, it talks about Xbox One users getting banned for things like swearing in their uploading of. Let me just read what the heck the service is called because I don't know what it's called. Oh, just Upload
Oh,
Studio apparently. Okay.
okay.
So, not just Upload Studio, which I guess is some. I don't have an Xbox One, so I assume it's just software that lets you upload streaming video or just video files and whatnot. And Microsoft has that in their policy that they can ban people for stuff of that nature, but they also apparently have banned people for private conversations either in Skype or other things in that
Wow.
service. And there's a bunch of people on Reddit, which I tend not to read because again, you talk about flame wars and stuff.
Hmm.
But I glanced at it and there were a lot of people that were pretty peeved off about why they're banning and that it's kind of a gray area as far as their code of conduct. Some of it is covered under the code of conduct. Some of it apparently looks like it isn't. So definitely check out the video once we link it in the description or in the annotations because it gives you a description, talks about it a little bit more. But I'm interested to see not only how this evolves over the next little while because Microsoft has already given an official statement saying that they are enforcing their code of conduct and that they're not apparently not spying on people's conversations in Skype or things of that nature, but they are still enforcing their code of conduct. So it's kind of a vague response.
Well, how
So
if they're not like I'm okay, like I get maybe when they say we're not spying, like there's not a guy there watching your Skype call, but they're still like getting digital transcripts or something like that of what's going on in these
yeah,
calls in order to get the ban
yeah.
initiated.
I'll read you the quote that this person from Escapist magazine got from Microsoft. So it says, quote, "To be clear, the Xbox Live policy and enforcement team does not monitor direct peer-to-peer communications like Skype chats and calls. Also, we take code of conduct moderation via Upload Studio very seriously. We want a clean, safe, and fun environment for all users. Excessive profanity as well as other code of conduction violations will be enforced upon and result in suspension of some or all privileges on Xbox Live, unquote." I'm going to look up and see if conduction, I think he means code of conduct, and I don't know if that was the person in YouTube or if that was the actual quote from Microsoft that said conduction, because that's kind of
Well,
funny if it was the Microsoft person. Conduction?
it's a word. I don't know if that's the right word for that
Well,
usage, but
it makes me think of like those little legalese things where they can say,
mm,
like if someone comes back and makes a comment about, oh, this isn't really covered. They're like, well, when I said code of conduction, I didn't say code of conduct. Therefore, ergo, I can get away with this because I made a grammatical error, but I can still cover my own butt with it. Things like that. But I have no
yeah,
idea.
like revengeance. It's like revenge without uh like anger or something like that. But yeah, so are people getting banned for their Skype calls then? Because it sounds like on that they're saying we're not monitoring that at all, and that
Uh,
the bans have only come from the upload stuff.
According to the video and the description, it does say that people are banned off Upload Studio and off of Skype, and that they have. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, the message that it says when they're banned apparently is, quote, "Choose something else to play because of your past behavior. You can't do voiceovers or things of that nature." So unquote.
Interesting.
And I have obviously again I don't have an Xbox One, so I don't know exactly how it works, and I'm not running
Yeah.
around. But it seems a little bit excessive for like even for Upload Studio just to ban swear. Like I don't know what qualifies as excessive profanity. I have no idea,
Yeah,
right? So
that's the thing.
And then the other stuff getting banned off of Skype, I don't know, maybe their service is all linked together. I hope not, but somehow if they linked it all together, so if you ban one, it bans everything. Like it just goes account wide or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it depends how specific, if it's just a general ban or if it's specific to that app or what have you. Yeah, that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see too, as like PS4 and Xbox One kind of have different things that they can do at this point in time. But I'm sure they'll get to the point where like PS4 will also have probably Skype. Maybe not. That's Microsoft, isn't it? So.
Yeah, Microsoft I think has bought that now to replace like Live Messenger and everything.
Yeah. So maybe they won't get that, but they'll get some other features.
Yeah, they'll get some other voice/video service, which I'm so grateful they finally did, because that was the one thing about PlayStation 3 that just drove me nuts, was the fact that you couldn't do like if I wanted to play a single player game and have a conversation with someone at the same time, I can't do that, and that was just the most annoying thing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as these systems go on and as their features become similar and more people use them. The interesting part will be comparing the community of the PS4, a more open platform, or at least so it seems, to the more regulated Xbox One. Because if there are people with like rampant, I don't know, like racial or swearing or whatever the problem is with the uploads on Xbox One, if that is like becomes a legitimate problem on PS4, or if they're just kind of mitigating something that's really not a problem, like that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I hesitate to pass any kind of judgment on something without knowing more, so it's just more one of these things to keep an eye out for it, because I totally understand the idea that, you know, you don't want people saying all kinds of things that are incredibly rude and offensive to people and then uploading it and having other people see that sort of stuff.
That's just the thing, right?
Stuff. So that definitely makes sense, but at the same time, it almost seems like they're getting banned for stuff that they're not putting out in public too.
Yeah,
although
that's
you
the
wouldn't
thing.
want people to say hateful stuff at any time, if they're saying it in private, it's like,
it's within the context that obviously the two people more than likely will understand, right? So yeah, that'll be interesting to see if Microsoft's heading something off at the pass. Somebody's cell phone's going. It'll be interesting to see though if Microsoft's heading something off at the pass, or if they're just kind of, like I said, controlling something that's really a non-issue. And I think as these platforms become bigger, we'll kind of see how that develops on the PS4, where they don't seem to have that regulation, or at least not as strictly. See if it's something that does go rampant there or not. It will kind of be a proof of concept for both consoles.
Be right back.
Yeah, no problem, man. But yeah, no, that'll be interesting to see. What else you got?
That's pretty much it for me, because that was the only major news update, other than, you know, what you had already mentioned about all these Persona games coming out, which we're excited about.
Yeah, like at least 3 Persona games I know of. There's the dance one for the Vita, which is interesting. Then there's the one for the 3DS, which I don't really know what the hell that is.
Yeah, I can't give you much of a detail either. Like, a lot of this stuff, I just kind of find it and gloss over and go, oh, that's kind of cool, and then kind of, I guess I would like to let other people, if they want to find out about it, then they can, rather than going into too much detail, like other specialized websites, because like I try to listen to like RPG Fan, RPG Gamer, or RP Gamer rather, podcasts on a fairly regular basis, and so if you're sitting there listening to podcasts for 3 or 4 hours long about RPGs, it makes sense, but for like a you know, a gaming website like this, maybe, you know, not so much for in-depth stuff. So
no, that makes sense. And then the last one was the mainstay one, which all we got is an image, and they said fall 2014 for PS3, which is interesting though, considering considering Persona 4 came out on PS2. I think PS3 was out for almost a year by then, but PS3 also was struggling a lot more at the start than PS4. So
Yeah,
Um,
Atlas does seem to make a lot of games like late in the console
yeah,
life cycle, which is not too dissimilar from how Enix used before it merged with Square Enix. Enix used to be like notorious for
that's true.
putting like Valkyrie profile and stuff like that, like right at the end of a console life cycle. So you can get really good games, or you can get really bad games, like say Star Tropics 2 on the NES, which probably half the audience isn't even old enough to remember, let alone know what it was. But the first Star Tropics was middle of the NES's life cycle. It was really good, and then they made Star Tropics 2, which was like the third or second last game or something to come out for the NES, and it was quite bad.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's only just it's a little sad when you have like these new systems and there's a game that you really want and it's like on the last gen tech,
Yeah,
especially
it's
after like and we'll probably get later than that. So PS4 will have been out for probably a year and a half by
yeah,
the time we actually get it. So how many people will have PS3s still hooked up? It's hard to say, but so far it's doing really well. And if that
yeah.
keeps up, I'm not sure how good their game will do.
Well, yeah, and that's always a trade-off, right? Because you think about how long it takes to develop a game. If it takes 1 to 2 years to develop a game,
Yeah,
they don't necessarily know when they start making the game that the new system's going to come out at such and such a date, and if the architecture of the system's going to be in such a way that they can just easily port it over, and then it's like, okay,
that's
do we
true.
start over or do we just continue and hope for the best? And
But
you can. Sorry, you go
yeah,
ahead.
that no, that's true. But I think the only thing is that you look at games like even Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, like that came out for PS4 also. Like all they did was up-res it, add some effects and stuff, and then I'd be fine if that's all they did for Persona 5. But still, like it would be in 1080p and it would run smoother, higher frame rate and all that, and I'd be fine with that. Like I don't know. They could do PS4 version 2 maybe, or they could still change their mind. Like it's a year out, which um
Gives
yeah
them a lot of time and
yeah.
leeway to kind
So
of see how the market goes, how
that's
everything
true. They
everything.
could wait and see how PS4 does, and then they might go multi-platform or change their mind or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because obviously the more systems you've sold, the more likely you're going to have people that are going to be able to buy the game for it because then they're like, we already own
Yeah
the system. Because
yeah
you can't say at this point. I mean, it's more mainstream than it was, but it's still a kind of a niche JRPG. So it's not like it's going to be a system seller. It's not Final Fantasy. It's not like a Halo or a Call of Duty or things like that where you're like, I have to buy this system for this particular game.
it's not Halo or Call of Duty, but I would almost argue the Final Fantasy theme just because Final Fantasy has dropped off so much with
Well,
13.
yeah, that brand definitely took a hit from 13 for certain, and then the stuff around 14, although it was an MMO.
Yeah,
It's fallen off somewhat. I think JRPGs in general have evolved a lot, and Final Fantasy was kind of trying to be a front runner and change the trend, but the
yeah.
trends they chose to change to just were not necessarily ones people really wanted to adapt to. Like I don't know the numbers, but I know a lot of the RPG series that have stuck to kind of the traditional like turn-based battle system, where it's just kind of you lining up in a line and maybe the graphics are a little bit better and stuff like that, tend to do really really well in the East, in Japan and stuff like that, because
Yeah,
that's just the way it's always been basically. In the West, it's always been kind of a niche thing, and so I think that's part of the reason why they've tried to innovate because they're like, well, we'd like to get the North American, European market and stuff like that, but it's difficult because you look at a lot of the more popular RPGs like the Elder Scrolls series, things like that.
yeah.
They're completely different. Like they're not turn-based. They're open world. You can do basically almost anything you
But I
want
think
with it.
people
There's a
like
lot
that
more action.
variety though. I don't think everybody would want. I don't think people would want Final Fantasy to go with Skyrim though. Like
Oh no, I'm not saying that it should at all. I'm just saying that that's partly why Square wanted to innovate, which and
that's
the things
part
they
of it.
innovated
Like
to weren't necessarily the stuff that people wanted.
a lot of their Final Fantasy team, I got canned or left before 13. So a lot of the people when they made 13 were actually like completely new to game development. A lot of them never
Yeah,
even made a game before, probably 80%. And that's why 13 was so like is so flawed even just like technically speaking. Like yeah, it had pretty graphics, but it's like the no town story they tried to give people was complete bullshit. like they're like, oh, well, with the graphical fidelity and all this, it's like we can't, for all the RAM it has, you can't do towns. And well, I think we talked about this, one of the things we talked about last time off cam.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was complete tut because 13.2 that had towns, so it was clearly their inability to manage their resources properly. And
Yeah, and it's also like, what were they trying to do with the brand? Because especially if you had a whole new set of people building on it, you may have lost the people that were the visionaries behind the stories and visionaries behind all the different other
yeah,
parts of the game too. So you can't just walk in and say, well, just do what you did in the last game, because it's like, well, A, they weren't there, and B, that, we don't want a carbon copy of the same game every expansion. It's not like Madden for like
yeah,
forever. I mean, they add stuff, but that's a whole different thing. That's a sports game. You can kind of expect
yeah,
that. But with a role playing game, you want a new story. Like, for example, I loved Star Ocean, and then 4 came out, and I'm just like, they try. I'll give them marks. They tried different things. It was kind of the same idea, but they expanded, tried to go in a different direction with some of the stuff. I didn't particularly like it, but that's just me. I much prefer 2 and to some degree 3. So there are other RPG series out there, like we talked about, Infinite on Discovery. A lot of the PS3 launch titles
mm,
were not exactly things that we liked, and it's kind of, you're harkening back to the good old days of PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, when everything seemed to be really good, and that could be a topic in itself. What really changed? Was it because they were so adamant that we need to have the graphics, we need to have the voice acting, we need to have these other things to make it almost seem like it's a movie that you're playing instead of a video game?
yeah, yeah. That would almost be like, yeah, like a case study on its own, was trying to solve that mystery.
Yeah.
But
So I mean,
yeah,
yeah, so I mean that could be another topic for discussion. But basically, that's kind of where I was thinking, as far as like when you're looking at launch titles for games, or games that are going to sell the system. Persona's. I mean, I love Persona. It's one of my favorite series. But is it something that is like someone looks at it and goes, "Man, I have to get this." Well, maybe some people do, but, or sorry, I should say, have to get this system to get this. I don't
I
know how
think
many
it
people
could
are going to
be.
buy a
I
system.
I think Atlas is a bit too conservative of a company for their own good sometimes. I think they play it a little too safe, and that keeps them from being just successful, which they're certainly successful where they're at now. But I think that keeps them from becoming like great. Is they don't take those risks. Like they do build on technology that looks good, but they don't go above and beyond, right? They don't invest any more than what they're certain they'll make back. And I think if they had done that with Persona 4, they had have went like all in on PS4 or just next gen in general, make it cross-platform, especially since it's so similar. Made an engine that's still like the shading in that Persona, like the art style that Persona's had, but just like really amp it up, the textures in that, and then just promote it. Like the combat system's good. I'm sure they're going to iterate on that anyway, and then just promote the hell out of it. And I think it could have been a system seller. Like you look at how like artistic games can be system sellers. Like they don't have to have Call of Duty graphics, which the newest one didn't have the greatest graphics, but they don't have to have Killzone graphics or nitty gritty like that. Like
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like,
art
and I
can.
agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you that it doesn't have to have the best graphics. I'm thinking more just of how many people are buying a certain type of game. So, if whenever the next, like, World of Warcraft, I mean, that's actually a bad example because probably everyone already has a computer, but whenever the newest of whatever series of game comes out, if it's out for a new platform, if you already have a user base that's playing that game that's in like the millions or tens of millions, they're more likely to buy systems for that, and that gives you a much larger user base already on the game system, or already like playing that system, and then from there you can then sell other games to it. I'm not saying that Persona 5 can't be a system seller for to some degree, but to the scale of more mainstream games, it would be hard unless they really started to gain traction through the things that you said already. Like, I definitely agree. Promotion needs to be a lot
Yeah,
bigger
I
for
think
their
if they
games
had
and their titles.
1080p high res textures that with really good animation, and and then just do the things that it always does well, like it always does story well, always does character well, and music and all those other areas, and and then just promote it to make sure people know what it is. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say that because all the big games that we have are things like the closest mainstream RPG hit would probably be like Skyrim, right? Which is still pretty realistic graphically speaking, but with the rise of comics and those genres and things and RPGs have kind of seeped into every other aspect of gaming. I don't see why. I don't know. I don't see why it couldn't be. Final Fantasy used to be the system that's what sold the PS1. That's what made it an actual system was that brand behind it, and I think that's just more the genre's fallen off than the interest in the genre's fallen off.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and that's when I said Final Fantasy earlier when we were talking. That's what I was thinking of was Final Fantasy 7 and to some degree 8, 9 for PS1 to sell that system because that's the thing that people wanted. And I think to some degree part of the change with the RPG genre is way back in the day, like the NES, Super Nintendo, that era. They're just like the graphics obviously were not realistic at all, and there was only so much space in the game to be able to do stuff.
Yeah.
So the only games where you really like if you were the kind of person that was like, I have a weekend to kill, I want to be able to play through, I want new content. The only games that were there that you could probably get enough time investment in and not finish were role-playing games. And then especially for PS1 near the beginning when they were still figuring out the technology and everything, that was the thing. It's like, oh, Final Fantasy 7, it's got like 40, 50, 60, whatever hours of gameplay, lots of stuff to do. Nowadays, you can have the amazing graphics in other games and get tons of hours of gameplay in other genres. And as you said, so many other genres have now taken elements of RPGs and put them into their own games that the RPG kind of has become less special, or not less special, less unique. And now they kind of are on the ball to either innovate in different ways to get more interest back in them again, or go back to their roots where they started.
Like I think it'll be interesting to see this generation because at least it's starting off on a really good foot, at least for RPGs, because it does have things like Final Fantasy 15, which is finally seems like they figured out what the hell, like they remembered how to make a good game. Like I don't know, they found a formula in a closet or somewhere. Like, oh, that's where I put it. Like I don't know what it is, that square, but they seem to figure something out. And Lightning Returns looks good. But starting off with that, and it's starting on a couple of good notes, and hopefully that genre can kind of make it back this generation. But also to the interest for shooters and that are kind of falling off there, at least for military shooters. I think a lot of people are tired of that aesthetic, and
you get burned out of stuff after.
The interest, like Call of Duty Ghosts, has definitively not sold as well as previous ones, and a lot of people are really getting burned out on it. Also, things like Destiny is technically an RPG. Yeah, it's a shooter, like kind of like Borderlands is an RPG, though it's more RPG than Borderlands. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think that's a genre that could be really making a comeback, especially where this generation seems to be not so much on graphical fidelity, which is really good, but with the increased RAM and space, seems to be more
power.
Depth. Yeah, and processing power. It seems more like depth and complexity of your worlds and your AIs and all that stuff. So, and which lends itself really, really well to your RPG worlds.
Exactly, and your like adventure / RPGs or action / RPGs like the Zeldas and things like that. Even though that's what
I still call that an RPG.
No, I agree it's an RPG. I was just thinking of like what kind of power does the Wii U have? Because I was like, well, Zelda's clearly a Nintendo proprietary license, so I didn't want to. Because I was like, oh, Zelda on the PS4? No, you can't do that. Well, you could, but it's illegal. So yeah, that kind of stuff is
maybe
really
maybe the Wii U 2 edition.
Maybe, but even the Wii U, at worst it's equivalent to last gen systems. So obviously it's going to do a lot more things than the Wii could, which it couldn't do a lot of stuff, and they still made it look really, really amazing as far as the. Although I didn't like, I guess Twilight Princess was technically on the GameCube too, but like the Skyward Sword was a really good game, and they didn't have a lot to work with as far as the power behind the Wii. So it'd be interesting seeing the Wii U work, because Nintendo usually with their first party stuff is really, really good at making games utilize every last bit of the ability of the system. So, but that on top of what you were just saying about the actual more powerful next-gen systems of the PS4 and the Xbox One, their ability to do all these different things like multitask, create all these different threads of things, it lends itself to adventure RPGs as well and our action RPGs, because now you can do all this. You can have all these people like you would in an RPG all around doing different things, not just following a scripted like walk forward, turn right, walk forward, or whatever pattern. But then you also can have the graphical fidelity. You can also have all these other things that the person can do. So like I think we were talking off camera about destructible environments, and like not going overboard with it, but being able to have like, hey, if I'm in like a room, I can like pick up the piece of paper and look at it, and it has stuff on it. It's not just random.
Yeah, it's not just like blurred.
Walk over and there's like a bedpost. I could pick it up and use it as a weapon, like things like that we've been thinking that we wanted to do since like, well, I don't know about we, but I've been thinking that I wanted to do since like Ultima 4, 25, 30 years ago, that you wanted to be able to do, and now it finally looks realistic, and you have the ability with the processing systems that we have now to hopefully be able to manifest that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting time for games, and it'll be very interesting to see where things go, where the innovations take off, and all that. A lot of people say that this generation's kind of meh because innovation's kind of dead, but I don't know. I think it's just more that the innovation isn't as writing on the wall as it used to be. Like, obviously, graphics were always a given. We could predict that. We could foresee how that could get better. But now we're kind of in real uncharted territory where experimentation is kind of going to be the ultimate king. Like, if you can come up with a creative idea and make it work and be fun, that's going to be where the payoffs are, and not so much the formula of just, like I say, improving your graphics or whatnot. So it's really going to separate the game makers with vision from the ones who just got really high math scores and can write good programs.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing too, because it almost harkens back to the really first couple of generations of systems, because back then it was pioneers basically setting up things and seeing how different things worked and what kind of stuff people would buy and
back before when we really had like now we got like first person shooter genre, third person shooter, tactical shooters, and then you got RPGs and all those are subgenres and everything in between. But like you say though, back in the NES and SNES days, you kind of had like action adventure and things like that, but so many things were kind of their own thing, but before there was even a genre for it. Like Metroid, like the Metroidvania subgenre, like as the name suggests, Metroid and Castlevania kind of created that. Like that wasn't a genre before that. They just kind of had an idea and went with it. So it'll be interesting to see with the integrated multiplayer and so many things like Watch Dogs and all that. What subgenres will come up next? Like what new means of gameplay are going to be created?
Exactly. And so this and many more things are just some of the things that we ramble on about on the Dark Enforcers forums, among other places.
Yep. Yeah, this is just kind of audio version of one discussion in the forums there. So with that, we'll probably wrap things up. And I'll say definitely check out our website if you've been interested in this discussion. If you haven't already, www.thedarkenforcers.com or just Dark Enforcers, it'll work. We also have forums on there and hopefully more news articles that will be starting soon. I know I already got Infinite Crisis stuff with new characters and whatnot. Be sure to, you're probably watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit the like and subscribe. And if you've liked our discussion here today. And hopefully I'll get Facebook stuff up there and whatnot, so you can follow us on there too if that's what works best for you. So with that, I'm probably going to say see you later, and see you later, Matt. And thanks for filling us in. And till next time.
Yeah, later, guys.
Ciao.